It's been more than 25 years now. I look a lot younger, I think. Well, I pretend, anyway. Working with cloud for the last 11 years, give or take. But I think to my advantage goes those early years spent in the data center or in the office, so knowing the difference between and the progression between the on-prem world and the cloud world. I've been with Vodafone for the last 5.5 years. I joined Vodafone UK in 2018 and Vodafone Group at the end of 2020. In Vodafone Group, I'm part of the IT for IT engineering, platform engineering team. What we offer to the wider organization is shared services and platforms that support the rest of our business. I'm passionate, well, you may have understood until now, I'm passionate about cloud. I'm passionate about cloud best practices. I'm passionate about cloud cost optimization, which is probably a topic that's close to your hearts as well. I also run something beyond my time in the office. I run an AWS user group, so I really go above and beyond when it comes to cloud. So, spoken about me, let's talk about the telco as a service platform that we built in Vodafone. The telco as a service platform started with a vision. We run technology cycles in Vodafone, and at the beginning of this current technology cycle, a group of people came together and decided that it was time to build a platform that was putting the developer at the center, at the focus of our attention. We work in a very competitive sector. There's quite a few telco operators in this country, but also in the rest of the countries we operate in, that fight for the the smallest niche of customers. So getting lower time to market, getting features out quickly and effectively can be the differentiating factor that can win or lose that revenue that we strive for. The idea, the vision behind this platform was to abstract complexity, right? So developers or software engineers often don't want to know about the underlying infrastructure. It's not their job. It's not where their value is best spent. And therefore, the group that envisioned this platform came up with this idea of creating a layered approach where a software engineering team would just drop, in air quotes, their application on this platform that the platform team would build and run. The platform would need to have a way to run opinionated templates where security is at the heart of our approach. So pre-approved template that satisfies security requirements and that enable our teams to get up and running quicker. Another advantage of running a centralized platform is that we can reduce the TCO by leveraging economies of scale. We've run in situations where different teams use the same tools and they pay different providers, different local sellers for the same tool multiple times. We were trying to reduce this. As an architect, from the vision then, I look at what the requirements are. So these are some of the requirements that came out of the vision. The first point was we wanted to be up to speed with what the current technology trends are. So a very sharp focus on containers, everything as code, automation, API first. So all the bells and whistles that you already know about, right? So bringing Vodafone up to speed with current technologies, but also integrating this platform with our code repositories, for example. We don't run our code repositories in the public cloud because of regulations. So how do we integrate our on-prem code repositories with this platform that is supposed to be the easiest thing to adopt by our software engineering teams? Same goes with observability. As I said, we manage and deliver shared solutions. So observability platform is something that we are responsible for. How do we integrate that with our platform so that an application that is delivered on this platform is automatically integrated with our observability tools? I will speak a bit more about code reusability later. There's a couple of slides that go into that. Another point that was crucial to the success of this platform is an approach that can support multi-cloud and hybrid cloud. As I said, we work in a sector that is highly regulated. We work in multiple countries which all have their own regulations, and therefore one approach doesn't fit all. In this case, if we consider, for example, a country like Germany, where you have one AWS region, if you want to have HA that goes multi-region, you cannot limit yourself to AWS because the data needs to stay in country in Germany. So you need this multi-cloud approach. Other countries you operate in don't even have a cloud region and have a requirement for data to stay in country. So we had to consider our on-prem deployments for this platform as well. There's an element of integration with SaaS products. I will dive into that deeper in a few slides as well. And the last couple of points, reusability and extensibility, again, go back to that element of Vodafone operating in multiple countries and having to adapt quickly to different requirements, different local regulations. I will explain a bit later how we took this on board as well. Then from the vision and the requirements, we also have some key technology principles that we follow. These are not limited to this platform, but were definitely relevant to the delivery of this platform in particular. I mentioned, well, everything is code and immutable infrastructure. Again, they shouldn't come as a surprise to any of you here. They're, if you want, buzzwords, but they are also a mantra that we follow when we think about cloud engineering, right? You don't want to manage anything manually. You don't want to have anything that's delivered one-off through a dashboard. You want everything to be codified and your infrastructure to be dispensable. You need to be able to erase your platform and recreate it from code. That's the ultimate goal anyway. But then the code reusability, that's the point that I mentioned earlier. If you spend time recreating the same solution in a slightly different way again and again and again, that's not a good use of your expensive infrastructure engineers or platform engineers. And we have that. It's a reality of almost all companies. We have teams that deliver similar features in their unique way. They create their own snowflakes. They need to be individually security assessed. They need to be individually managed, etc. We wanted to move away from that. With regard to code reusability, I'll touch about that a bit later, but you'll see that Terraform was crucial for us to obviously enable that. Secure by design. Secure by design is a mantra that a lot of people use. We adopted secure by design so deeply that our security team, or a part of our security team, is called secure by design, which means that we move security to the left as much as possible. We involve our security architects and consultants in the design phase, not when the design is ready for approval, but when the design is being discussed, when we are at the inception phase, so that we get feedback from them, we can steer our design in the right direction, and we have fewer surprises when it comes to approving that design to go into production. SaaS over PaaS over IaaS. You'll have heard about buy over build or build over buy, and whoever says that phrase out loud almost implies that one has an advantage over the other. And surely in some scenarios, one of them is better than the other, but they're not one approach fits all. In our case, if you have a competitive advantage by doing things yourself, then that justifies self-managed. If you don't have a competitive advantage, then you're wasting time. You're wasting, again, going back to the point that your engineering resources are expensive, why would you have them learning about the technology, deploying that technology, managing that technology, managing incidents in production, if that doesn't give you a competitive advantage? If it does, then well, you may even attract those technical resources that your company needs by advertising that you're using a specific technology, but otherwise, there's no reason to not adopt a SaaS product. One example for us was a non-relational database. We could have downloaded the software, deployed, managed, scaled. It would have taken us weeks, maybe months of planning to decide the scale of the database cluster, etc. Or we could just integrate with a SaaS product that the same vendor offered, and we would just pay as we go. Again, one of the big advantages of the cloud. Moving on, a few of the things I've mentioned so far will have already hinted that we wanted to remove undifferentiated heavy lifting from our teams. This was in the form of, probably I jumped the gun a bit, highly skilled engineers are an expensive resource. I've said that a few times already. But then maximizing the time spent by your engineers delivering value is where your company can generate value themselves. In our case, we wanted to focus on the strengths of our teams. So if we could have one platform that could support multiple teams while splitting that across multiple individual teams, and we're not perfect. We're not there yet. There are still teams that recreate the same things over and over again, but this was going in the direction of maximizing the value that one platform team can bring to the whole company. I mentioned the SaaS integration. Wanted to spend a few more words on that. When we evaluate the total cost of ownership for an integration with the SaaS product, often we don't compare apples to apples. Often we compare the cost of a SaaS versus the cost of downloading a piece of software and running on a piece of infrastructure. Often we forget the cost in headcount, the cost in resources, the cost in the time that you spend recreating something and detracts from generating actual value to your customers. So just something that I'm quite passionate about, looking at the total cost of ownership is often not just the ticket value of what you're spending for a product, it's also the opportunity that you are creating by freeing some of your resources to do something different. The outcome of our analysis of how we get to remove the undifferentiated heavy lifting is that, or one of the outcomes is that we created a strong relationship with HashiCorp in a few areas that will come up soon. Wanted to give you a quick look at what our infrastructure looked like, or infrastructure architecture. You'll be slightly disappointed. I cannot reveal the secret sauce, so I cannot go in depth into that diagram. It's on purpose, it's small, it's one of my early brain children when I was designing this architecture. But what that should tell you is that this infrastructure, this platform, is complex. It's not a simple three-tier application that you run on your cloud and you deploy a simple template and off you go. It's something that's quite complex, and one of the elements that, again, becomes crucial in this is that secure by design approach that we follow in everything that we do. So involving security as early as possible in the design. I was actually very lucky. I was working with a very open-minded security consultant. He was very happy to provide suggestions from his point of view. So he facilitated my job incredibly. And when it came to approving this design, it was almost pre-approved because we worked together on that. I hinted at how we took on board the needs of different countries earlier. How we went about creating this platform and delivering this platform was we followed a data-driven approach. In this case, data was in the form of talking to our prospective tenants, identifying an anchor tenant, so a tenant that would be the first to adopt the platform with quite vast requirements themselves, and working with them on which features to deliver first. We adopted an MVP approach, so we delivered only the bare minimum that tenant required. But then after that, we also opened the discussion, the conversation to prospective tenants that would come with their requirements. And we would adopt this approach of asking them, where do you see value in this platform? What would convince you to get on board in this platform? What do we need to deliver in order to make this platform attractive to you? The other point, probably jumping the gun again here, so I'll hold back on that. The last point on this slide is about the shared responsibility model. Shared responsibility model, if you're using AWS, other clouds will have the same. You're already familiar with what shared responsibility means, right? You are responsible for one part of security, data management, etc., and your vendor is responsible for the remaining part, like usually the physical security, etc. In our case, it was similar. Our platform team would be responsible for running and managing the platform, scaling it, making sure that enough resources are available for any workloads that are scheduled by a tenant, etc. But the tenant themselves, their engineering teams are responsible for running, managing, and supporting their application all the way to production. So that model of it worked on my laptop, it worked on dev, now it's your problem, we didn't want that, okay? We didn't want to shift responsibility from developers to operations when it comes to managing an incident in production. So we've spoken about what drove us and what was supporting us, then how did we build the platform itself? We in Vodafone have been part of an agile transformation for at least since I joined the company, probably earlier than that. So you can say probably about 5-6 years that we've been adopting agile methodologies in Vodafone. Agile, however, doesn't work the same in every company. Vodafone is a huge company with hundreds of thousands of employees. How do we make agile work at scale? So we decided to adopt SAFe, which is a scaled agile framework. And we use that. This project was actually the first project in our department to run in SAFe. And after that, with the lessons learned with the delivery of this platform, we extended SAFe to other projects. Just looking at the time. Agile is well known. I'm not going to spend more time on how Agile works. But what it delivered for us, especially in this SAFe model, involving product, involving security, engineering, platform, all together to deliver one common goal, that created some synergies between teams that we really valued, and that created opportunities for us beyond the delivery of tasks. It also gave us the opportunity to have some well-defined goals, but also managing to pivot if the goal that was initially defined was not the right choice anymore. Again, data-driven, we would deliver, test, decide, pivot, or continue on that trajectory. I've mentioned that our tenants were key to define how the platform would evolve. The last thing that I want to mention is that being agile, but also needing to make this process as open and as strong, I guess the right, probably not the right word, but you get the gist in a second. What we wanted to do, we wanted to have our teams justifying their choices without being stifled in their delivery and innovation. And at the same time, we wanted these choices to be documented for everyone to see and analyze in the future. We did that through TDAs that were sessions where we, as I mentioned, we would bring product, security, software engineering, platform engineering together, and all the major decisions would be discussed there. The proponent of decision would bring a decision paper. Anyone in the virtual room would be able to comment, to raise questions or objections, and at the end of the process, with a public discussion, the decision would be accepted or rejected. This, as I said, allowed us to have an open process, which then also created some documentation that was crucial for teams that would inherit the management of this platform at a later stage to understand why did we choose, say, Consul over a different product. And I mentioned a couple, I dropped a couple of HashiCorp names so far, but where was the value in the HashiCorp partnership? And I want to, again, underline the word partnership, because we have many vendors in Vodafone. Personally, I think we don't have a lot of partners. And that's, I think that the key there is the kind of relationship you create with the company or the person at the other end of the line when you need some help or support, or when something goes wrong. And with HashiCorp, we found that we were very well supported, and we could build a relationship of trust. HashiCorp were very open in admitting when their product had some bugs that needed fixing, and they were very quick in fixing those bugs for us, prioritizing the work that they needed to do to get some stuff to production ready. At the same time, trust only goes so far. We wouldn't be partnering with HashiCorp if there weren't tools that we see value in that HashiCorp can provide, okay? You can see a couple of names there. Consul, in particular, we use it Consul Enterprise in our deployments. And encryption and secrets management, Vault, again, Vault Enterprise in our case, highly regulated sector, kind of follows that. We're using products that we self-manage. Do we see a competitive advantage in managing those? Maybe not, but regulations trump competitive advantage, right? So we had to make that kind of choice. Obviously, Terraform is one tool that anybody that is serious in infrastructure as code uses. We have been told by our global account manager that we at Vodafone downloaded Terraform open source about 10,000 times in one calendar year, which is a fraction of the number of employees, but you can imagine, the volume of downloads that we had. Then we're not limiting our partnership with HashiCorp to these tools. We are exploring a few more. I'll have a slide at the end of the presentation discussing a bit more where we're going with HashiCorp, which actually is about now. I didn't realize I'm at the end of my deck, and it's about on time as well. So takeaways. Is this platform the finished product? Have we achieved our nirvana, and are we just satisfied our job is done? Not quite. We learned a few good lessons, but we also have a lot more work to do. Some of the projects that we're working on, I probably skipped the part where I mentioned that multi-cloud and hybrid and on-prem cloud are key. That triggered a piece of work for us, which is how do we secure cloud-to-cloud networking or cloud-to-on-prem networking in a way that is not only consistent, not only up to the standard required by the regulators, but also enabling us to be more agile in the way we manage our applications and our services. So, piece of work on zero trust networks. We are exploring different areas where you may have machine to machine or human to machine, and there you probably already know from the HashiCorp presentations, we're playing around with Vault and Consul in the machine to machine space. We're evaluating Boundary in the human to machine space. We are also looking into identity-based, I can't read my notes anymore, access controls, sorry. So again, moving away from that IP to IP, something that Nick mentioned earlier, and something that Armon mentioned in his initial presentation. We don't want to be aware of IP A talking to IP B. That doesn't really give us any value. We may have IPs being reassigned, that those rules may be stayed on our firewall. We want to know what service can talk to another service. And we want to do that dynamically, because if tomorrow an engineering team delivers a new service and they can see from a catalog that a service already exists that does part of the job, they need to be able to plug into that with as little as effort as possible. So again, that's where we're going with this project of IT network modernization. We are expanding the scope for Vault to additional use cases. Some of these are already in production stage. Some of these are in the works. Vault has been selected as one of the products that are key to protecting our core networks. So the network that your mobile uses to make a phone call, for example. We are also trying to modernize our identity management tools, moving away from a process, again, something that Nick mentioned, you go through multiple stages of approval just to get a user into a user group so that they can have a permission to do something somewhere in the cloud or on-prem. We want to modernize that. We want to make that process as simple and streamlined as possible. So we are exploring what can be done with Vault in that space. And big data IoT, we have an IoT offering in Vodafone. That platform, I admit I'm not involved with that piece of work, but I'm aware that they use heavily Vault and they have it in production already. Last but not least, we have teams evaluating the advantages and the opportunities offered by Terraform Cloud and Terraform Enterprise. I mentioned 10,000 downloads of Terraform open source. We can probably do better, or we can probably remove some of the heavy lifting there as well. Is that coming at the right price? That's what we are evaluating now. Okay, again, can we gain a competitive advantage by going down the cloud route or enterprise route versus the self-managed route? The last piece that I wanted to mention is our One Source initiative, which again leverages Terraform modules, where we offer a unified repository for infrastructure as code modules that serve as blueprints for all the teams to then adopt. It's not mandatory. The repo is internal, is security approved, so the templates themselves will be security approved. A team that wants to deploy infrastructure in a certain way can make use of those templates, reducing their time to delivery, but they're also free to take those modules, make some changes and modifications, and then either contribute back to the one source repository or just keep them locally. Whether Terraform Cloud will help us to give us more visibility around how these modules are used, that's something that we're also evaluating. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for listening to me for the last half hour. I'll be around for lunch if you want to ask me any questions.